So we're going to jump into some actual editing with Hearteyes.
Yes.
Opening is great. You set up a really sweet rom-com opening that you subvert immediately when the girlfriend yells at the husband, the future husband, about the ring. So you're setting up a rom-com trope. You're subverting it. You're also, of course, they're getting stalked and killed.
Yeah.
What was your process of trying to having to set the tone for this film?
So opening of Hearteyes was very important that right off the bat, in the first few minutes, the audience knows what ride they're in for. It is a horror film, it's a slasher film, but it's a comedy film as well. We are trying to treat both sincerely and with earnest. So right off the bat, we had to make sure that we're making sure the laughs are working. We're making sure that they're getting, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, that we're teaching them the language of this film, how we're using sound, how we're using music. So like with the very opening, it even comes down to the very opening song with picking the right needle drop to start this movie. And we were looking for something that, would feel nostalgic, something that wouldn't necessarily feel jokey. We didn't want to feel too meta or parody right off the bat. We wanted to feel something that was sincere, but something that felt a little elevated. And this piece of this track, this needle drop, just felt perfect for our film. And you're discovering, as this couple is kind of interacting with each other, that the language of this movie is a little exaggerated. These people are kind of idiots. They're kind of douches. I'm kind of rooting for them to kind of get their comeuppance a little bit. And then Hearteyes comes out, the arrow pokes this guy in the head, and then we're into full-on slasher mode. And so Josh Rubin and I, the director of that movie, worked on that opening quite intently to set that tone right off the bat, make sure that the flow is there, that the stings are working, the scares are working, you're building dread, but you're also knowing when to release that pressure, that valve to elicit that laugh. And that's a fine balancing act.
And from the editing's point of view, it does sound like if you mess up the opening and don't educate the audience to your movie, that's when the movies sometimes fail.
Yeah, I think everybody that has worked on a comedy can relate to this. There's typically around the first 15 minutes, there's a sense when you're working on a film where the audience, if they haven't learned the language of a comedy, if the jokes aren't quite working and the pace isn't quite there, they're not sure the tone of this movie, it feels like there's this kind of slow, a little bit of a bumpy road to really get into the groove of the movie. And so one of the things that we do in the editing room at an early standpoint is to make sure the audience gets this movie right away, in the first minute. Let's teach you what you're in for. We'll work on that opening. Often it'll be the most worked on scene in the film in the editing room, just so you can clearly state what this film is. I had a friend that was doing a movie that was going through a testing process on their film, another comedy, and the opening of this other movie started in a funeral. It started with a person's death, and they discovered that the audiences were not really getting the tone of this movie, and so they rearranged some of these scenes, and they moved this scene in the funeral to later, or they cut it, and the points that in test screening process went up by 40 points. A drastic swing. You're teaching the audience what this movie is, lean in, you're in for a ride, and so it's so critical to do that off the bat.